The thing about getting out of debt, it's really quite simple. And we're going to spend the next 50 minutes together expanding this formula, so hopefully something clicks and we actually get it, but it's just this. So everyone write this down, okay? This is the secret to financial freedom. Spend less than you make. Rocket science, right? So why are you in this workshop? Let's go talk about building a Mel-How business. Well, because as easy as it sounds to spend less than we make, it's not always that easy. And there's reasons why it's not that easy. Some of my background before I came to work with Melaleuca, I worked for 11 years with a company right here in Salt Lake City called Franklin Covey. Anyone ever heard of Franklin Covey? Oh, everyone just about has. Dr. Stephen R. Covey founded a company called Covey Leadership Center. I actually worked for him directly. We eventually merged with Hiram Smith's company, if you're familiar with him, which was Franklin Quest. Covey Leadership Center was all built around the concept that Dr. Covey wrote, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and First Things First, and Principle-Centered Leadership. We were a leadership development and consulting firm and training firm. We merged with a company called Franklin Quest, which was the day planners. Remember the Franklin Day Planner? A lot of people still carry those things around. The Franklin Day Planner and the Covey Leadership Center, we had some unique common principles that we were trying to do in companies and with individuals, and so we merged, and I was with that company for 11 years. But one thing that I learned in working for that organization is that as simple as it is to teach correct principles and teach people skills and things, there's a certain barrier that makes all the difference between knowing what to do and being able to go do it. It's actually kind of a human dynamic. And so really what I became a student of during those 11 years with Franklin Covey was understanding human behavior. Why do we do what we do? And why do we not do that which we want to do? It all starts right up here in the head. It's all in our brain. And there's things that influence that thinking and influence our mindset, but everything stems from how we think. The way we think stems from our belief system. And there's certain things that are happening in our life that are automatically influencing our belief system. So when we talk about financial freedom and getting out of debt, we're actually going to dive a little bit. I want to do a little brain surgery. And that's what we're going to do for a little bit today is take a little bit of the mindset and start to shift that. Stephen Covey called it a paradigm shift. If all I did was teach you some skills on how to pay off your debt, you would see incremental change in your financial situation. Incremental. But if I can do one thing in the next hour together is to change the way you see debt. Change the way you see your financial situation. Change the way you see money and how it works. If I can create a paradigm shift, and that's going to be up to you, whether you're going to be open enough to go through the process that we're going to go through to have a different way of looking at things. A paradigm shift is simply when you start to see it with a new set of glasses. Did you know that millionaires, so have you ever read The Millionaire Next Door? Anyone ever read that book? Or The Millionaire Mindset? Really good books on the study of millionaires in the United States. And this was a very interesting statistic. When I first started my research on financial freedom, this was one of the first things that I found. 90% of millionaires built their wealth by earning an average income of $50,000 to $60,000 a year. Wow. That was a paradigm shift for me. I had no idea. Because in my pursuit of financial freedom in my own life, in my own pursuit of my own ambitions and trying to get ahead and trying to create wealth for my family and that financial security, I always was thinking, I've got to make 6 figures. If I'm not making 6 figures, I'm never going to have a chance. And so I was always pushing myself to try to find the right job, the right position, the right company in which I could go make some 6 figures in. Obviously, Melaleuca has opened that door wide open, but this right here, I was like, how? I mean, what are they doing, living on like bread and rice? I mean, how do you do that, become a millionaire while only earning about 60 grand a year? So where does our money go just from with how the money is spread out when we're spending it? What's interesting, this comes from the U.S. Census Bureau. And if you take a look at where all your money goes, 28% of your income goes to taxes, all the different taxes that we have. Some people pay more than that, some people pay less. Let's talk about the tax code. Just kidding. 19% household expenses, 9% to insurance, and look at the big one. 42% goes to interest. Do you believe that number? Sure we do. We live in a world of enormous debt. And congratulations, you have a whopping 2 pennies per every dollar to spend on yourself. Woohoo! That's why most of us are in Melaleuca in the first place, is to add to that keep for yourself. Here's the cost of debt. This was some interesting numbers. So I want you to take a look at this little graph here. Across the top we have what item we purchased, the purchase price. Next column, third column over, is the minimum required payment. So this is if we're buying something on credit. And how many years it would take us to pay it off of the minimum payment, and how much percent interest. So here's just some examples. So on a $150,000 home, okay, modest price home, the minimum payment would be about $923 at a 6.25% interest rate. Take you 30 years to pay it off. But in interest, look how much you're paying in interest. You're paying more than the cost of the home in interest. I think most of us have accepted that part of life. You don't meet too many people today that actually save up to pay cash for their home. Back in 1920 and 1930, it was unheard of to go into debt for a home. People saved up to buy their first home. That's the way it was just 100 years ago, or probably about 70 years ago. But now, mortgages is the way of doing things. Now let's take a car. Now most people have a senior director 7. He has not got his car yet. He's been a senior director for about 5-6 months, and he's just letting that $400 a month go away. As far as the $400 guarantee from Melaleuca, he's not collecting it because he hasn't purchased his qualifying car yet. And from a lot of people's perspective, they're like going, what are you doing? Go get your car. You're giving up $400 a month. He's like, no, my wife and I want to pay cash. And everyone on the team is like, what? What's that? No, you just go get a loan, and the $400 goes for the loan. He goes, no, we pay cash for things. And he has a very different mindset than most people today. But on a $30,000 car with a minimum payment of $600 a month, so that's more like an executive director car, take you 5 years to pay it off, 7% interest rate, you're going to pay an extra $5,800 in interest, $35,000 total. Now here's the one I like the best, the one on the bottom. Look at the dining room set. Now this is when you go to a department store like R.C. Willey or some kind of furniture store, and you buy a piece of furniture for $1,000 or more. And they say, you know what, we'll finance it for you. And so they do it off of 2% of cost as far as your minimum payment. And then it would take you 19 years if you made just the minimum payment every month on that. 19 years to pay off a $1,000 dining room set. You would end up paying $1,931 in interest for that $1,000 dining room set. This is what people do every single day. You've seen the 90 days, say, interest-free, or the 12 months interest-free. Well, what's interesting about that, let's say you go do a 24-month interest-free deal. And you're like, great, 24 months, I'm going to have 24 months to pay it off. We'll just pay a little bit at a time. And at the end of the 2 years, we'll make sure we have it all paid off. What typically happens during that 2 years? Every month you're still as tight as you were, and now there's no pressure, and so you just put it off and put it off and put it off. What happens if you are 1 day late after the 24 months of paying it off in full? Retroactive interest. Anyone ever paid that? You don't raise your hand, but anyone ever paid that kind of a penalty? It's like, whoa, what happened? That's the cost of debt. So let's look at, what's the mindset driving our acceptance of debt? Anyone ever heard of the marshmallow experiment? So they did a study. This was back in, I believe it was like in the 1960s. They did a study of 4-year-olds. And it was called the marshmallow experiment because they brought some 4-year-olds individually by themselves into a little room. And in the room, they had a 2-sided mirror. So the kids would look at themselves in the mirror, but on the other side is what the researchers were doing, and they were taking notes on these children. And they wanted to do a little experiment on self-gratification and short-term versus long-term. So they brought these 4-year-olds in, and I have a 4-year-old right now, and I know exactly how he would play out in this experiment. But it was very interesting. With each 4-year-old, the professors would sit the 4-year-old down, and say, we just want to do some fun stuff with you and just ask you some questions here. And for your participation and just being with us today, we're going to give you this nice, actually a nice big marshmallow, the big giant kind. And they set the giant marshmallow on the table. And they said, and then the professor would say, now, when I come back, I just got to step out of the room for a few minutes, and we're going to ask you some questions. And if that marshmallow is still here, I'm going to give you 2 marshmallows. Pretty good return of investment for a 4-year-old, right? He's thinking 2 marshmallows, sweet. And all I got to do is leave that 1 marshmallow there. Well, what would your 4-year-olds do as soon as you walk out of the room? Yeah, some of them just popped it in their mouth and didn't even think about it. It's like going, I don't care. Can't even think about 2. The one's right here. Popped in their mouth, ate the marshmallow. Other kids had a really hard time making the decision. Some kids had no problem at all. They just let the marshmallow sit. They kind of walked around in the room, found something else to do, or just kind of twiddled the fingers or sang a little song and just ignored the marshmallow. But others just really they were devastated with the decision they had to make. And they were just like looking at that marshmallow and just staring at it the whole time. Some would pick it up and smell it, and then they'd put it back down and see if anyone saw him. One kid was even reported that he licked the table, the edge of the table, all the way around the marshmallow while he's looking at the marshmallow. Another child picked it up, licked the marshmallow, took some little tiny bites out of it, and kept putting it down, and kept taking a little more tiny bites. It just became kind of a gooey mess. And so then they studied these children for the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, until they were getting into college. And what do you think they found during that 15, 20-year study about the difference in how those children ended up in society? How did they do on test scores? How did they do in getting along with other kids? How were they with any type of disciplinary problems? How were their grades? What kind of jobs did they get? All types of things as far as the measure of kind of success in life. And what they found was very, very interesting. And it's kind of what you would draw the conclusion. The ones that were able to hold up and refrain from that self-gratification scored noticeably higher in test grades, school discipline, getting along with others, college entrance exams, getting into college, and employment. In all areas of life, socially and educationally, they were more successful, noticeably different. Isn't that interesting? So is it a born behavior, or can it be a learned behavior? Are we just determined to be unsuccessful in life if we have the natural inclination to just satisfy ourselves and to have the short-term win versus the long-term? No, it's a learned thing. And we can learn control and discipline over those things. And that's what the whole idea of debt versus wealth is all about. So, every day, we have a decision to make about how we're going to live our life from a financial perspective. And it's a decision that we make every single day with every single transaction. You're making it here at convention. When you're buying your lunch and your dinner, you're making that decision. When you get up in the morning, you have breakfast. When you walk versus take a taxi. When you take the tracks versus a taxi. Or, however, when you carpool versus driving yourself. When you rent a car versus, taking the bus or whatever it is. Every day you get to choose. How am I going to live my life? But we make a decision to either build wealth or to build debt with every single financial transaction. So let me help you kind of see what you're doing right now and why you're doing it. If you would, I need you to go into your wallets. This is not optional. This is how I get paid. And pull out your largest bill. Okay, not a one. I need the largest one. Big bills. Everyone got their big bill out? Don't give me that wimpy, that's all I have is $1. Okay, we got a 20, got a 10, I've got 100. Okay? Yeah, good. She's my personal, she's got 100, thank you. All right, so pull out your $100 bill or your $50 bill or your 20 or your 1, whatever you got. Just I want the cash in your hands. And I need you to become really intimate with your money for a minute here. I want you to rub on it a little bit, give it a little bit of love, feel the texture, feel the paper. You don't want to love on it too much. You don't know where it's been. but just enough to become familiar with your dollar. Okay, you got your bill? You're familiar with it? Okay, now we're going to do a little experiment here. We're going to take our money, our cash, that is our friend, and I want you to just kind of follow my lead in this. Okay, just start ripping. Okay? Okay, you can take your 100, right? And start ripping it up. You're my personal. Be coachable, Kelly. Okay? Shred it up. Why are we not... Listen, let me just help you understand something. In this workshop, I am in charge. Okay? I am teacher. You are students. Start ripping. I'm a control freak. Okay, obviously none of you want to learn. She shredded up her dollar bill. Good job. She wants to learn. None of you want to learn, so get out of here. Go. What? You get to stay. Cost you $1 to stay. Okay, keep that. Okay? Why would you not tear up your money? Okay, so Kelly, she's my person. She said it's valuable. Not to be mean, but she's saying it's hard earned, it's valuable, blah, 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 blah. Come on, why wouldn't you tear it up? Because that's baloney, Kelly. It is. What's that? Oh, it's a waste. It's also illegal. It's painful. Okay, so what it represents? Disrespectful. I mean, with the worth of the dollar bill in the United States, is it really that much anyway? I mean, come on. Why wouldn't you tear it up? Okay, so you guys are all acting pretty self-righteous right now. Like you don't tear up money. Like I'm disrespectful. Really? How much are you paying in interest right this minute? You have some debt? You're sitting in this workshop, you probably do. How much money is being torn in the 60 minutes that we're sitting here of interest accumulating? Your interest on your home. You have a car payment? Didn't have any problem signing that financial document, did you? Yeah, sell me that car. Oh, 6%, that sounds good to me. $500 payment? Sure, psh, no big deal. Right? Do you have any debt on your credit card? And you're whining to me about tearing up a 50 or 100? You're tearing up hundreds, if not thousands, every single month. It's psychological. I need you to pull out your credit cards now. Credit or debit, doesn't matter. We're going to cut these up. Just kidding. Oh, look at everyone's scared. Don't cut up my credit card. This is like my best friend. She's always there for me when I go shopping. Okay? Well, I better get up here. I need everyone to see. All right, everyone got their credit card. This is not an option. Credit card or debit card? Everyone get in your hand. Everyone get their credit card. I need the magnet. You need to hold it with the thin side facing me. Okay? Thin side. Magnetic strip out. Come on, you know the position. Don't act so coy. All right, ready? Now hold it up high. Everyone needs to hold them up high. And on the count of 3, you're going to follow my lead. 1, 2, 3. Shoosh, 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 shoosh. Woo! Look at us go. Now everybody followed instructions. You heard, you understood. Teacher, student, right? I love it. You're learning now. I don't see anyone out there going, no. Jeff, I work hard for that swipe. That represents something to me, Jeff. My hard-earned money, Kelly. Okay, really, no one whined. Everyone just followed suit, like mindless mice, right? In an experiment. Why in the world do we not even think twice? It's what this lady in the blonde said. Psychological. When it's in your hands and it represents real effort, which is what dollar bills do, that means something to us. How many have actually taken, say you have a $20 bill, and you're going through a lunch line, and you're buying lunch for you and your husband or you and your spouse or a friend, and you get to the end and you have your 20 and you have your plastic. And they say that will be 1908. And how many of you do this? Yeah. I don't want to give up that. I'll give up this. It's painless. You did it today. People, we do it all the time because the pain isn't immediate. It's put off, and if we never open up that envelope when it comes every month, we won't fill it for months. Having get your credit card statement, you just kind of let that one sit. Put that over here in the I'll get to that later pile. Okay? Because it's painless. There's some interesting facts about using cash over plastic. Swiping your cards versus using cash is psychological. On average, every time you swipe, you will spend up to 50% more in that transaction than when you use cash. Fast food, go ahead and biggie size it. Add on the fries and the drink. When we have cash, we think, no thanks, I'll drink water today. Or instead of that double cheeseburger, I'll just have the single. No fries, thanks, and a water. When I have cash, I'm thinking dollar menu. That looks like a better option today. And by the way, you'll probably lose weight on this plan too. Seriously. So what the idea is behind this is if you have a debt accumulation problem, if you're one of these people that gets their credit card statement and you're like, what happened? How did I add another $500 last month? I don't even remember using it or going anywhere, and I've got $500 more on my credit card this month than I did last month. And I had made a $300 payment, and yet I still end up with $500 more. You ever had that experience? We all do. You're not the only one in the room, so if you're sitting there going, oh, geez, he's looking right at me. This is for me. No, it's for all of us, every single one of us. You've got a little bit of that problem. For the next 90 days, change your behavior. Do not pull out your credit card for anything. Go to a cash budget system. Cash only. For everything that you do every day. Obviously not you're writing checks for your bills, but everything else. Your gas. You want to change your driving behaviors? Start paying cash for your gas. Now you start thinking, well, while I'm out, it's easier for me to go ahead and go to the grocery store and then here, so I'm not driving back and forth 3 or 4 times a day. Because you'll be thinking every mile counts. When you go to the restaurant, use cash. Ladies, I'm talking to you now for a minute. When you go shopping at the department store, just use cash next time you're mad at your husband. My wife's great. She comes home, she says, and when we've been in a little disagreement, and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. She goes, oh, no, you're fine. You bought me a really nice blouse today. She didn't use her cash. She used my card. So go to cash over credit. It'll significantly change your behavior. That's one of the key paradigm shifts. The best way to do this is to take, actually, every month your budget, okay? I'm not the type of person that can budget line items. I don't know how much I'm going to spend in the grocery store this month. And I don't want to budget around that. I don't know how much I'm going to spend on gas this month. I don't want to budget around that. I don't know how much I'm going to spend on eating out or this and that. I just know that I have X amount of dollars to spend. So if I take that X amount of dollars and I just go get it in cash for the month, I divide it up by 4 and I put it in 4 different envelopes. Week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. It's a very powerful system. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to get that cash to last you all week for all your expenses. It's a really interesting process because in your first week of trying this new system, you'll be out of cash by Wednesday. Now, here's the measurement, or I guess the moment of truth, is on Thursday, do you go to swiping or are you going to the next envelope? Or are you cutting everything out of your life? for 3 days and trying to figure out how to get by without touching either one. That's going to be the test. Because even if you pull out your credit card or your debit card, because you know you have some reserves there, what the mindset will now be on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday is I'm dipping. I'm dipping out of my budget. I'm dipping into something that I didn't want to dip into. And now that swipe will become a little bit more psychological, and there'll be a little bit more guilt associated with it, and then you're going to curse my name for a few days. Oh, I hate that Jeff. He's a jerk. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, each person has their allowance. So if I'm, like in my household, my wife is in charge of most stuff, groceries stuff, and I do a little bit, but she's in charge of the groceries and school clothes and school activities and after-school activities. So she gets the lion's share as far as that kind of thing. So you just have to kind of divide up who's responsible for what. And it takes a little bit of planning, though, for sure. Because one spouse may just be totally out of control. The thing that you can't do is you can't hold your spouse hostage. Men, this is for the men now, okay? If you are a control freak with the money in the house, stop it. It's not your money. You got married, it's a partnership. Sorry. And if my wife saw me being in control of the money, that I was like a dictator, she'd have every right to leave my sorry butt. So just letting you know now, men, that I'm on your wife's side of the thing, okay? So we're not going to hold anyone hostage to this plan because it's a partnership. And one person is going to catch the vision before the other. The relationship's more important than the money anyway. Number one cause of divorce is what? Money. Right, because there's a dictator and there's a servant in those situations. And it causes problems. So we don't want to create that. Now let's take a look at, one of the great benefits to Mel-How is the residual income. Because in building wealth, there's two ways to build wealth. And we're talking about the first way right now. We're talking about reducing our spending, changing our mindset, reducing our outgo. And you can start to eliminate all those little things in your life that start to cost you money. Think about it in terms of where can I eliminate about $300 a month? So if you've got a piece of paper and some notes, write down and try to come up with about $300 worth of expenses that are nice to haves, but not must-haves. Try to find about $300. I'll give you some ideas. Do you pay for your lawn to be done? Start doing your own yard. Do you pay for dry cleaning? And do you maybe go over the top with stuff that you can't launder yourself and iron yourself? Do you have cable? Do you have to have the internet? Do you have to have all the channels on your dish package? Do you have to have the highest speed internet in your home? I mean, the internet's become such a necessity, but is it? It's become more of just a normal thing. But it's not, doesn't really change our day-to-day. Now, in our business it may, so then it's a business decision, right? Something like that. Do you go get a little coffee every day? You ever heard the latte factor? Right? That's what they're talking about today. You go buy a little latte, a little coffee, a little muffin every day, about $5 to $6 a day. And that adds up. If you were to take the same money that you spent on a $6 purchase every single day with those little habits, and you took that money and you invested it, after 30 years, you would earn about $1 million off of that $6 latte and muffin. That's the opportunity cost that we're playing with all these little expenses. So with Mel-How now, we're going to say, okay, we want to manage the outgo, maybe eliminate some of those nice-to-haves, but they're not must-haves, and then we also want to create additional income. When you can both eliminate some debt, eliminate some expenditures, and increase your income at the same time, now you've got some real money to play with on accelerating your ability to create wealth. But if you take a mortgage of $150,000, 30 years, 6.25% interest rate, take you 30 years to pay that off with a minimum payment of $923. So on this example, which is what he shared this morning, is if you had $100, you're going to knock off about 5 years, just over 5 years, with an extra $100 towards that minimum monthly payment. So you would save about $48,000 of interest in almost 6 years of financial bondage. So that's kind of nice. It doesn't take a whole lot of money to start making a real difference. So now let's just take a look at the average income for Director 3s and above. Okay, average income of Director 3 is $576. So let's take $500. So if we started working the business, earning about $500 or $600 a month, and we add $500 to our mortgage on this example, look how much is paid off. In this example, you'll pay $218,000 total. You only paid $68,000 of interest, but more importantly, you saved $114,000 and you're debt-free in 13 and a half years off your mortgage with $500 a month. Now that's not a lot. What if you could take some of those expenditures of those nice-to-haves, but they're not must-haves, say $200 that you could start to not spend every month and earn $300 or $400 or $500 in Melaleuca and start to take that money to accelerate your debt-free day. Just start putting it towards your debt. Now your mortgage is one thing, but most of us have so many other debts to pay off before we ever get to this point. We're going to get to that in just a minute. So this is the final example. This is where you actually have a business more like a director 7 or 8 is going to make anywhere from $1,600 to $2,300 a month. So now we've invested in our business. We're growing our business. We have this extra income coming in. How can we use that income? Well, on this final example, where we actually had $1,800 on top of our $923, you actually only pay $26,000 of interest, but you're debt-free in 6.5 years versus 30. Wouldn't that be cool? And that's what you saw on stage today, 23 mortgage burnings. Some people have said, you know what? Let's take these bonuses. Let's take these checks. Let's take our pay set or our advancement bonuses. Let's take a little bit of the leadership pools, and let's add that into our debt elimination. Now let's go through this in a way. Obviously, senior and executive director, the income gets a little bit ridiculous, and that's why I'm building a business. I like ridiculous. But the average senior director, $5,000 a month. Most people build us up to a senior director business doing this part-time anyway, or from home as a second income. Great way to start to accelerate the debt-free. When you were a kid, did you ever play with a little piece of glass, magnifying glass? As a kid, those were the most interesting things to me. And I remember being about 7 or 8, and I found this really cool magnifying glass in my dad's drawer in his desk. I'm like, oh, that is cool. I started to play with it. And then I went outside and I found that it can be very powerful in doing some cool stuff out on the driveway. And I remember collecting dry leaves, from that had fallen off the tree, and taking the magnifying glass and angling it just right. What happens with the light that's coming from the sun as it hits that piece of glass and then is angled at a certain angle? What happens? Yeah, it actually takes all the light around the surface of that glass and it channels it into a single beam, a laser beam. Right? That's what a kid is thinking, a laser beam. This is cool. And you start to burn through holes through leaves and start little fires. And then you go and find little ants. And you start to burn ants and see them curl up and fry. And then you're like, well, that's not good enough. I got to find bigger stuff. So you start finding cockroaches and pulling their legs off and laying them down. And you didn't do this? And grasshoppers just rip off their legs and burn them up? You didn't do that, huh? I did. And start to burn holes through. I was sick. I was a sick kid. But there's a principle there. When you channel energy, you can have amazing power. And that's what you want to do with your debt. So let's take a look at say, debt power role plan in your financial situation. You have all this debt. So this is a typical family household example. Now, the way you want to list your debt, now we're going to start from the bottom. Dave Ramsey actually taught this principle. Instead of paying off the biggest interest rate, the focus is pay off the smallest amount first. So you'll see that I actually don't have it listed by interest rate. I have it by the smallest balance. It's a Dave Ramseyism. The power that he teaches with this is that it gives you a win very quickly. Like, for example, if I were to take, say if the Visa was the highest interest rate debt, because that one's showing 18%, but let's say that was 25%. If I was attacking that $7,000 debt first, and I only had an extra $200 a month to put towards that, oh, it takes forever. The thing's getting bigger before it's ever getting smaller. And I lose my energy and my enthusiasm on this whole new, let's get a budget, honey. and let's get out of debt. And all that energy, after 4 or 5 months of feeling like you're not getting anywhere, starts to dissipate. So what Dave Ramsey teaches, he goes, no, take the smallest one. Because if you can attack just one debt and pay it off, it's like a, woo, yeah! Paid off that $300 card. Still got $300,000 of debt, but that one's done. And you feel power? You do. You feel powerful. It's the power of making a check on your to-do list. You ever make to-do lists and actually write things on there that you've already done just so you can check them off? And we all do that. It's like going, well, I'll just throw that on there. Check. Oh, yeah. Hadn't thought of that one when I actually made my to-do list. All right, so that's the principle behind this. So in this example, as I look at all my Nordstrom credit card, JCPenney, and my balance, my minimum payments, and then there's the interest rate. So watch how this plays out. You see first month and end month. So this is the months that actually begin my debt power roll plan. So in this example, I'm only taking that I found $200. It's either my Melaleuca check or it's the money I've eliminated from some of those small little latte factor type items. And I find $200 extra a month that I can pay on top of the minimum payments. So that's my power payment. Now the power roll looks like this. On month 1 and 2, I apply the $200 on top of the minimum payment for the Nordstrom $50 payment. My new payment's $250. You all with me, right? So 2 months, that debt is gone. Now what do I have on month 3? I've got $250 more. I've added $50 to my power payment. So on month 3, I'm now adding that to the next highest balance, which is the $1,500 one. And by month 6 in this plan, just 4 more months, that debt is gone. This is now becoming a little fun. You do that for 4, 5, 6 months, you pay off a couple of little things, and you start to feel pretty good. Now you and your husband or your wife are getting pretty excited. We're like, look what we're doing, honey. We're making a difference. Hopefully our Melaleuca check's going up at the same time, we can add even more. But given the fact that we're not going to add any more, we're just going to follow this plan, on month 7, we now have $360 freed up for our use. This is the power of it. We add that to the truck payment. Our new payment's $560, and in just 13 months of starting our plan, check that out. We've paid off $4,500, $1,500, $475. That's almost $6,500 of debt in 1 year. Instead of adding that on this year, we took it off. Now this doesn't happen overnight. This got to take time. So now on month 14, we now have $560 freed up. Added to the Visa payment. Now our new payment is $745, and on month 19 we're done. Now we're after the Toyota, $16,000 balance. Well, on month 20, we're less than 2 years into this. We had $745, new payments $1,095, and in just 2 years and 3 months, add up all that debt. That's over $30,000 of debt elimination in just 27 months. Isn't that cool? That's the magnifying glass example. Now we're going after total financial freedom. Okay, so now we've earned all of the financial freedom awards except for the mortgage burning one. So on month 28, we're now adding $1,095 power payment. Isn't that fun? The only difference between my example and Dave Ramsey, for those who read Dave Ramsey, is I start with a power payment up front because we have a Melaleuca income, we can add it towards that. His is just a debt snowball. When you can add a little bit on the front end, it goes so much faster because you've already given it some energy, some fuel. So now your new payment on your mortgage, $2,145, and on month 113, you're out of debt. That's a lot of fun. And that's really just the principles and skills of getting out of debt. It's the power of channeling the money. But you've got to start to have the mindset of understanding how much cost interest really makes or really costs you in your life, and what the cost of swiping every time does to you. And you become in financial bondage. You really do. You become a slave. I mean, how many of you would love to quit your full-time job? Right? And just build Melaleuca. I mean, wouldn't that be nice? Just quit. Be free. Why can't you? Because of this stuff. Not only does your employer hold you in bondage, but this is the real bondage. right? Because you can't afford to leave if you can't make those payments. And so if you can start to eliminate that, and then taking your Melaleuca income check, or even a percentage of it, and power rolling through that debt, when it could be your debt-free day. So I want you to think about your debt for a minute. Think about your Melaleuca income, right now, where it's at now, where you'd like it to be, and set out for yourself a goal, okay? And just take a moment and write down a date. Not something over the top and unrealistic, but something that's manageable. Take a look about if you're on a 30-year plan for your mortgage and you got 20 years, 25 years left, or 15 years left, how quickly can you start to cut that down? And just write down a date. The theme that I keep hearing throughout every executive and corporate director and person that tells their story, it always comes down to one little thing: making a decision. And every day we make the decision: are we going to build wealth, or are we going to build debt? Are we going to build a business, or are we going to keep with the status quo of where our life is at now? The only difference between a successful corporate director, a millionaire in this country, someone who's debt-free, someone who's creating wealth, an executive director, it always comes down with one thing. Someone has made a decision more deliberately than we have. Are you going to be the leader, or do you just want to be led? Lead your own life. Change your future now. Let's change the game together. Thanks, you guys.